Hello. Don't know what happened there. And I think we're back. We're hardwired. I don't know why I got the Wi Fi signal thing, but we are here. So let's record Mike in the Midwest and get this out on the feed. Episode 216. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 216 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike. That would be Instagram, Twitter, which I still call Twitter. Some people call it X, and Threads. Would love to connect with you, but the place you can always find me is our Be Our Guest Podcast Clubhouse, which you can find at beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse or beourguestpodcast.com/discord, whichever one you like. Both places will take you there. It's basically our live message boards / live chat. We have daily trivia hosted by the awesome Trisha, who you'll hear from here in just a few minutes. She does a wonderful job with that. It's truly one of the greatest things on the internet, even though I peek in there almost every day, know pretty much none of the trivia questions, unless it was the ESPN week. I knew most of those. Or the ones where it was based on the shows that we did with Scott. But otherwise, just jump in there. We have sports channels. We have channels about Disney dining, Disney resorts. It's all about that stuff, but you're patrons, so you probably know all that stuff. So come on in, join us if you haven't. It is a great time. But it is Sunday, September 14th, 2024. If you're listening to this later, happy hey, it's fall right now. If you're listening live this week, hope your fall is it's not officially fall, I guess. I guess that would happen here in about a week and a half, but it's fall. I got out the boo buckets here in the studio. How about that? The retro boo buckets that came out about a year or two ago at McDonald's. That means it is fall here in the studio. I love those things. Those go back to my childhood when they used to have the old Happy Meals in the different containers. Do you guys remember those? When I was a kid, getting a Happy Meal. This isn't the main title, but it just because I did this first time. Here's the deal: like when I do these shows, I get a kick out of because when you get to look into the video when you're recording the show. And again, you can always you can see the video in YouTube if you just go to our YouTube channel, Be Our Guest Podcast. I guess it's youtube.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. When I get to see what the background looks like out when I'm doing the shows, and it does look kind of sweet because I put the little boo buckets holding my marathon Walt Disney World marathon ears that you get for completing the marathon each year. And the boo buckets were what the Happy Meals, the replicas of what the Happy Meals came in. I guess that was like in the 80s. But I also remember back in the day, what a treat it was when I was a kid to go to McDonald's. And there was a period of time where the Happy Meal container was like, I believe it was the prize, if I'm not mistaken, because, and I know the show kind of had its issues with, it wasn't super appropriate, but like when I was a kid, we used to watch where I live. We watched Dukes of Hazzard. That was like our show that we watched on our block, just because it had race cars, right? It was like cops and robbers. You had Roscoe, the police guy, chasing the Duke boys, and because we always got on our bikes, and we had one person would have to be Roscoe, and Enos and the cops, and one couple other people on the street would be Bo and Luke, and we'd chase around the block, and we'd jump our bikes. We had our dirt bikes, our Huffies, and if you were rich, you had a Mongoose or a Diamondback. I didn't have that. I had a Huffy or a Raleigh. So later on the days, I had a Raleigh, which was a little bit nicer, but it wasn't a Mongoose or a Diamondback like my friends had. But either way, we had these jumps set up. Excuse me. We'd ride up to the elementary school, ride behind the elementary school through the playgrounds. We we thought, in our heads we heard like Waylon Jennings playing just some good old boys. But the thing was, when the show was on Friday nights, streets were bare. Like nobody was out there because we were watching the latest episode of the show. But as soon as the show was over, and I think Dallas came on after that, who cared about Dallas? For us, we could care less. We didn't care who shot JR. That was not us. Like we were, we didn't care about that. We were as soon as that show was over, we were out in the streets on our dirt bikes, reenacting whatever happened on the show. So that was like our jam. But I think for a period of time, getting back to McDonald's, I want to say that you got your McDonald's food in containers that were plastic. I got to look this up because I'm pretty sure this happened. If this is not a fever dream, like you got your food came in like Uncle Jesse's white pickup truck or Daisy's Jeep Wrangler, or possibly like the police car that Roscoe drove, or the General Lee or whatever. I think it came in like 5 or 6 Cooters tow truck. I want to say that for a while that they had a lot of Happy Meals came in plastic containers, different franchises too, like flying saucers, submarines, and that was like the prize. I think they came with sticker packs where, while you were eating your food, you could put stickers on the outside of the plastic and you would decorate it however you wanted. And that was kind of a cool time. But this was, of course, the boo buckets were on Halloween because it was practical, because you could get your food in the bucket, eat your food. And these did come with stickers too. I don't think you put the stickers on the bucket. Maybe you did, but you could take your bucket around and get your candy in it on Halloween night, which I thought was pretty cool. I just like the buckets. I think they're kind of cool little decorations. They just remind me of my childhood. But I remember that. So leave that in the comments. Do you guys remember? Maybe I'm a little bit older than some of you. I don't know. But I do remember, because we had this, I always went to my McDonald's was at a place that we mostly went to at a shopping center called Cross Keys, which ironically enough was the shopping center where I taught elementary school with my wife. But yeah, we went up, and I know that I got the Dukes of Hazzard container ones. I remember getting Uncle Jesse's pickup, the white pickup truck, and cracking it open, and the chicken nuggets and the little bitty package of fries. And I want to say there were cookies in there. It was like a dessert. Back in the day, I think you got a dessert with a Happy Meal. Back in the good old days. I think nowadays, what do you get, like apple slices or something? Oh, too bad. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So anyway, that was not what I was going to talk about. But yeah, that's one of those things. I just like seeing my boo buckets. It brings back good memories. And I hope that's what this show is all about. This show is not serious. This show is just a little bonus for our patrons, hopefully to maybe trigger some old memories for you once a week, just to kind of take a trip down memory lane and talk about what's going on around here. So what has been going on around here? Let's see. So we had our first responders and military appreciation football game on Friday night at Francis Hall at our high school. And it was great. We didn't win the football game. We played the number 1 football team in the state. They had won 30 straight football games. They're the defending back-to-back state champs, and they play the part. It's like playing them is when they come in, they're a private school. They come in, it's like the movie Remember the Titans, but it's like at the end of the movie when Coach Boone says, "I don't want them to gain another yard." That's what it was like. So we returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. So it was looking good there at the very beginning. And that's pretty much where it ended, because this team is unreal. But the good news is it was great. Like, we had a flyover by the police helicopter. We had lots of veterans and first responders and all kinds of folks in attendance. We raised almost $2,000 for the backstoppers who support folks that are hurt in the line of duty. And it was just a great night to come together as a community and thank those people in our community that are police officers, firefighters, active military, veterans. And it's good to do that once a year, to see our community rally together. So that was kind of a good night. It was a great night. It's really cool to see that. Win or lose, it's a win. So we did that yesterday. On Saturday, we got to go out to Mizzou to see the football game. Again, I know we have a lot of our listeners that are Boston College fans. Great game. Boston College is a great team with a great quarterback. Castellanos is he's a good quarterback. Being a Mizzou fan, I don't know how your sports team does you. Being a Mizzou fan takes years off your life. Dennis, one of our patrons, he knows he's a Mizzou fan as well. I swear it takes. If I wasn't a Mizzou fan, I probably would live at least a year or two longer in the grand scheme of things. We have a good team this year. We really do. Knock on wood. But man, like things happen all the time, and a couple things happened. Like this bad touchdown. I'm like, we were down 14-3 all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, here we go again. We ended up winning the game, but man, I was sweating bullets again yesterday, but we won. So that's good news. We play Vanderbilt next week. But it was a great, beautiful day in mid-Missouri, gorgeous. And I love, see, the thing is, for us, just so you know, like how it works for us, I'm not gonna get into the football thing, but here's like why I really like Mizzou. We live about 100 miles from Mizzou, where I live. So it's a great, it's not like a vacation or anything to go to Mizzou games, but it is far enough away that it is kind of like getting away for us, right? You got to drive. Like we don't live in Columbia. That's where the University of Missouri is. It's in the middle of our state. We live right outside of St. Louis. We live about 20 miles west of St. Louis. So it takes us about 2 hours to get to Mizzou. A little bit less if we drive really fast. There's no traffic. So it's kind of a little getaway when we go to Mizzou because we don't, there used to be a Zaxby's in Mizzou. Want, guess what? My Zaxby's went out of business. I found that out this season. I'm so distraught about that. That was the only Zaxby's in Missouri. It's gone. It's a shell. I was so sad. It's just empty. Anyway, but it's tragedy. They're all over the South. There's none in Missouri now. I need to open one in St. Louis. It'd be a gold mine. But anyway, we go out there and we go to the football games and there's a famous pizza place, Shakespeare's Pizza. A lot of times go out and have Shakespeare's because we don't have that in St. Louis and make a day of it. But it's always fun. So we got to go out, watch a football game, beautiful weather, and got a victory. So that was a lot of fun. So today, kind of just recovering, right? We got the podcast tonight, which I'm excited for, the live call-in show. Scotty G will be joining us. He's golfing this morning with his brother. You probably saw that on Instagram. And it's just one of those days, like just working here at the house, catching up because Friday night was all football. Got up. The thing about football games is since the football game yesterday was at 11:45, if I want to get my runs in and all that stuff, I had to get up at 4:45, get my run in. With 2-hour drive, the game kicked at 11:45. By the time the game's over at 3, you got to drive home at 5, get dinner. That whole day's gone. So yesterday was like a blank. And now today's where like you catch up. So those weekends where you got home games at Mizzou, they go quickly. Next weekend, we have another home game, but we're not going to be able to go because Mallory has cheer regionals. So we'll be watching Mallory's high school cheer squad try to battle for their spot for state championships next weekend down at Lindbergh High School here in St. Louis. So won't get to go to the Vandy game against Vanderbilt, but we'll be watching on YouTube TV from the cheerleading regional championships here in St. Louis as Francis Hall cheerleaders take on the world. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, hope you're having a great week. We'll be talking about all the Disney news tonight. So hope you can join us at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central for the call-in show with Scotty G. Let's talk about what everybody talked about last week. And there was a fun connection to last week's show yesterday with Mizzou, which I cracked up because it tied into our Mike in the Midwest. But we'll talk about that in a second. Dennis down in Texas said, thanks for explaining the story with Ben Herbstreit. I noticed him in the booth last weekend, but I didn't know whose dog it was or why it was there. It all makes sense now. I know how you feel about having Riley at home with you. I have two dogs, Loki and Zeb. We've had Loki for 10 years, and he's some sort of German Shepherd mix, or so we were told. We adopted Zeb from an older gentleman moving into a nursing home in 2020, right before the pandemic. Zeb is a large black lab mix. Even after the pandemic, I mostly work from home, and Loki and Zeb have been my companions while my family has been at work and school. It's pretty great to have them around. Of course, it can be a challenge if I'm on a call and there is a delivery. Imagine two dogs losing their minds barking, but they definitely make the house feel more alive during the day. I totally agree with what Dennis is saying. When Mallory and Pam are off at work, I mean, Riley is it, it's like, it's her and I, because this place would be dead without her. I mean, she just sits here next to me. I got a little bed next to her here in the podcast studio. She's got her little pillow right here next to me. I mean, Paige bought all this stuff for her. I didn't buy it. Paige got it all. But there's a cool pillow. It says favorite family member with a little paw. It's right next to the window. I mean, she's a princess. She's got all the spots. So, and I don't allow her in here when I'm recording for the reasons that Dennis just mentioned, because if when I'm recording, somebody knocks on the door or somebody's out at the lake, she will lose her mind. And I don't want to have to deal with the barking during a podcast recording. So when she is booted out of the studio when I record, but otherwise she can have her little bed here in the studio. But that's where I draw the line. Now, that's funny thing about Ben Herbstreit, though, right? He is sitting right under Kirk Herbstreit, who is live on ESPN doing game day or doing Thursday night football. That dog must never bark. That's what I've always wondered. Like, he is live in front of millions of people doing the biggest football games every week. I mean, that dog is super chill because they're live, like, in front of like live ESPN, millions of people. That program director has just got to be beside himself or really trust Kirk. I don't know. All right. Trish says, VHS, be kind, rewind. I personally don't have an issue with service animals to a point. Please don't bring your therapy snake on a plane. True service animals have to go through intensive training and are generally more well behaved than some people. And if Ben brings some joy to social media, don't put it down. Just stop following it if it bugs you. Also, maybe take a look at yourself if a picture of a cute dog annoys you. Thank you. Yes. This dog is living out his senior years, just living his best life, and it's bringing joy to Kirk Herbstreit, and it's an extension of his family. He's on the road a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. He got to play football at Ohio State. He lives a great life. He's super rich. He's living the dream. But his family's not with him. And I don't care how rich you are. I mean, I don't know. I've never been rich and I never will be. But the thing is, I don't care. Like if I was a gajillionaire, there's money can't replace having your family with you. I don't think that could. No, I'm not. No, it couldn't. If I had $50 million and I was told that I still had to travel the country to do this podcast or to broadcast sports. I love to broadcast sports, but even if I had $100 million to do that job, to go city to city to call college football or high school football or what have you, but I didn't get to see my family very much, a part of me would be super sad, even though I'd have all that money. And like having a companion, like a dog that I love, is like an extension of my family. Yeah, that'd bring me a little bit of peace. I don't think that's what the dog does. I mean, I get that. Does it bring his family there? No, but it's like it's just a little replacement. It's a little connection there to back home. I think it's kind of like it's like a walking teddy bear. I think. I mean, it is what it is. It's a little connection. I have no problem with it. And Len out in Maryland, he says, my thoughts as a former trombone player and currently a 63-year-old on why seniors choose a trombone to learn. When you look at all the instrument choices, the trombone is one of the easiest instruments to understand and control. A trombone is just one long tube with a part that can make the tube length longer or shorter. Other instruments have multiple valves that require both finger dexterity and coordination to play as well. A trombone only requires you to retract or extend your arm into 7 different positions. This does require you to develop an ear for the notes, since you have to adjust your slide position slightly to get the note in tune. Myself, I am relearning electric bass guitar during my retirement. It takes a lot more finger coordination than a trombone, but it is much easier than a lead guitar, and I love the sound of a bass. Yes, it's all about that bass. I love it, Len. I love this. We need to start like the Electric Mayhem band. I need to learn an instrument. Well, my dad was a drummer, and I played the drum in like 4th grade, and then I gave it up because I was like, I don't care about music. I want to play sports. And I think it killed my dad a little. But yeah, I don't know, man. My grandpa he jammed on the trombone for a few months before he passed. I think he just wanted to, I think he knew his days were limited, and he said, what how can I squeeze the most life out of the, I got a little bit of life left. I think that's how I'm gonna be. My grandpa was the greatest. Like, I think if he could have gotten on a bull, like he would have gone for a bull for 8 seconds, like in his last couple of months, even though he was kind of frail. That's just kind of guy he was. He wanted to get the most out of life all the time. And he wanted to help anybody that he could have. Like he would never not, it's a double negative, but he would never not help somebody. Like anybody that needed something, my grandpa was there. Like he always. And at the end, he knew, and he was at peace. He was a Christian man. He knew he was going somewhere better. And he knew he was going to see like his twin sister passed away in a fire when they were both 3. And he knew he was going to get to see his twin sister Charlotte that he hadn't seen since they were 3 years old. I mean, he was at peace. He knew that he was going somewhere better, but he still wanted to ring life for those last for all it was worth at the end. He didn't want to go, but he wasn't scared to go. But he wanted to get the most miles he could. Like that's why he had that trombone there. And he called Ms. Davis from our elementary school. Ms. Davis, Bev, teach me how to play the trombone. I'm like, that's just like grandpa. Because he'd sit there and watch Johnny Carson. I just remember growing up every night, man. He'd eat hard candy at the table there and watch Johnny Carson every night after the late news. And there at the end, like, what are you doing, Grandpa? I mean, he was the greatest. My grandpa kind of looked like Johnny Carson too, kind of in a way. I don't know. Maybe everybody thought the grandpa looked like Johnny Carson. I did. He was pretty cool. Anyway, let's get to today's topic. In today's topic, I thought about because I want to get your feedback. So my schedule is super rigid, and I hate this for myself. But again, I work from home, and I don't have a lot of deviation in what I do. My days are the same. I work every day of the year, so like with my, I do everything the same. I run on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I run on those days, and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, I walk to kind of rest my legs. So everybody was telling me I need to get outside. So a few months ago, I decided on my walk days, I'll just go outside and walk around the lake for 8 miles. So you've been seeing those are like my sunrise pictures I post on Instagram. So I go out there and walk, starting at about 5 o'clock, 5:20 in the morning by the time I get out there usually. And of course, as we move into the fall, the sun is rising later and later. So I get out there now and I have time to walk in the darkness for about an hour now every morning. And of course, I spent a lot of time working at space camp, and I've always been a space nut and so forth. And so on mornings where it's clear, and we've had a lot of clear mornings over the last month, you get a lot of time to kind of look up at the stars is before the sun rises. And you get some beautiful sunrises around here. We've had great ones. We had a really good one again this morning, and I try to post them every day so you can kind of see them. Um, but I was thinking about this the other day when I worked at Space Camp. We really, and maybe it was just because I was working in that area, but it seemed like it was a huge deal to do this thing called Spot the Station. And there's a website for it. You can just Google Spot the Station, where you can go to Spot the Station, spot the international it's the International Space Station, and you can type in your city and you can find exactly what time and where to look in the sky to see the International Space Station fly overhead. And you don't need binoculars, you don't need a telescope. You can just see it. It looks like a star. It's very bright and it tracks across the sky. It's a bright point of light. Sometimes for 2 or 3 minutes. If you're lucky, it'll pass for about 6. Sometimes they'll go directly overhead, sometimes a little bit off to the horizon, maybe 20, 30 degrees. If you're lucky, it'll be a 90-degree pass directly overhead. It just depends on the orbit of the station on that particular pass. And some days it won't go over your city at all. It just depends on where the station is in relation to your city that day. But if you go to Spot the Station, it'll tell you when and where. Now, remember, the space station orbits the Earth every 90 minutes, but it doesn't orbit your part of the Earth every 90 minutes. So it's kind of interesting. But here's the thing. I feel like about 20 years ago, collectively as an American society, we were more excited about this stuff because this past week we had some amazing stuff happen. And I know sometimes politics gets into this stuff, and I'm not getting into politics. I try to keep politics out of everything. I let everybody make their own decisions. We're all smart enough to make our own decisions. I feel like that. Do your research, make your own decisions. Here's the thing. There are 19 people in space right now. 19 people orbiting our planet. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a record. That's pretty amazing right now. And then earlier this week, we had people that were further out in space orbiting since Gemini 11. That is a long time. That's before the Apollo program. So that's pretty remarkable too. And the thing is, I've hardly heard a word about this. And I was just wondering, have we lost our sense of wonder? I hope not, because kids have a sense of wonder. They're always asking questions. They're always curious about things. And I'm not just talking about space, but like with things like AI, with things like the latest iPhone, a new iPhone launches, I think this Friday, it gets delivered. They just announced it last week. With what have you, when a new technology comes out, sometimes some of these things are just so amazing that I don't even think we even sense it sometimes. Like, I think we need to step back and still, like, really think about these things and be like, wow, do we? I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we still need to have that mindset of a kid and say, this is amazing. Like, wow, how does that work? Because I love when I go on my walks in the morning, pre-dawn, when it's still dark, I love to look up and see the Orion constellation, which you can see. That's right. It's always right over me. But I love when the planets are out there and I can still see Jupiter and I could see Mars and sometimes I could see Saturn. And I think, because then you could think about, like, you got to, have that wonder, like, how many generations of humans on this planet have seen that same view? And then you just go down that spiral, right? Like my grandpa saw that. My grandpa's grandpa probably saw that exact view. My grandpa's grandpa's grandpa saw that same view. You know, Great leaders saw that view. All the presidents have seen that exact same view. When you think about things like that, it kind of makes you, it humbles you. Thousands of people, for thousands of years, people have seen that view. And then when you think about things like this, here's another thing I think about. We sit like where my subdivision is, we're probably about 3 miles from the Missouri River. If by the but like as the crow flies, we're probably about 3 miles from the Missouri River. And I wonder, like back in the Louisiana Purchase days, back before this land was anything, it wasn't Missouri, it was just land. Native Americans lived here and it was just land, before the Europeans came over. Like what did my yard that I own right now, like who lived on this land? Who lived in this area where my subdivision sits? Like where I'm walking around a lake every morning. What did this look like in my mind's eye? Like I'm picturing like the movie Dances with Wolves. Like what did this whole area look like way back then? These are the kind of things I think about. Do you think about these things like for your subdivision and like where you live? Like, I wonder because we do have kind of rolling hills kind of around us. Like, what did this piece of land, this plot, our subdivision, before the dual highway that sits right offside of our subdivision, and before all these houses and all that stuff? Because this is very attractive land, right? We're very close to the Missouri River, water source, transportation, food. I mean, this had to have been very attractive to the Native Americans. I mean, this had to have been, a place they would have loved to have lived. I'm sure that there were, you know, uh, people living here. I wish I could go back in time and see it. Not only looking up and like wondering about the cosmos, but wondering about the land I'm walking on every morning. It's just things like that. Do if we am I and I know I'm not, but I just worry sometimes that we get so tied up with the hustle and bustle of 2024 and getting things done. And don't worry, because I'm the worst about it because I'm super busy. But I hope that we always have the sense of wonder and that we tell our kids to still be kids and always stop and just wonder and just be in awe of things and think about things and just be like, God, I can't believe it. Like, how cool is this? Because picture where you live right now. Wipe out the houses, wipe out the roads, wipe out the tall skyscrapers. Just think about the natural geography and what it looked like 2,000 years ago. What was it like? I mean, isn't that awesome? Think about it. I don't know. I just wonder that. The word wonder, look up, think back, think about things. Have we lost our sense of wonder? Do you do that daily? Do you do that weekly? Do we need to do more of that? I just wanted to ask you that question here as we're kind of in the middle of September, because it really is something I want to be more mindful of, because when I do it, it kind of makes my heart happy and it makes my brain happy, but it also makes my brain kind of go, "Phew," because it's one of those things that when I wonder about one thing, it makes me wonder about 10 more things. And I think that's good for us to do as much as we can. All right. Well, I'm going to get out of here, but I'm going to ask you, what are some things that you wonder about? And when you put those things in our comments over at patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast, that would be greatly appreciated, because what's going to happen? It's going to open up a whole lot of stuff for all of us to wonder about next week. And I think that's a great thing. I appreciate you guys so very much. You guys make the shows possible. And I love doing the shows. I hope you're continuing to enjoy them. And I just thank you so very much for your friendship. And again, I hope you always enjoy the Be Our Guest podcast. I'll give you my best effort each and every show. And thank you for allowing us to keep doing the show. So until we talk again, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.